Hello, friends.
Hi.
Welcome to episode 1 of Eldest Immigrant Daughter, your new favorite podcast. Let us introduce ourselves. I'm Janet.
I'm Serisha.
And I'm Rose-Ingrid.
We are going to start off with a little introduction. More importantly, how we met. So I'll start off with how I met Serisha, who
How
then
did
introduced
you meet?
me. Oh, girl. So, like good eldest immigrant daughters, we met in a church parking lot. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Was it the parking lot?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it was.
Praise thee.
Mhm.
Kingdom Bashente.
When first you seek the kingdom of God, you will find your besties. So I pulled up to the parking lot and I looked to my right. This was when I was using the rideshare service. And so I pulled up and I looked to my right and there's this woman, long, luscious black hair, on the phone having a very serious conversation. And I'm just like, okay. Well, she's brown, so, there's that. That's good. I had no expectations. This was, of course, a Pentecostal church, so.
No comment.
So I pulled up, I see this woman, and I go in. And I don't remember our first conversation, but definitely I felt comfortable sitting beside you. Because it also helps that the church had a practice of herding all the young adults into one corner. So that we would.
Of the front.
Yeah. Look at us. This isn't a dying church. Look at these young people with pulses and employment. But eventually you and I, we clicked. You were chill. You offered me a ride at one point. You were nice. And it was just like, I do not remember our first conversation, but we eased into it. And I think we really connected more in the Bible studies because I was pressed during half of those.
Oh,
sessions.
right. Yes.
That's when we really started talking. I was like, okay, she's a real one. And then that which shall not be named.
No, name it. People need to name COVID.
Yeah, COVID's still alive, so people need to remember.
Are still dying from COVID. We need to name COVID.
Yeah, that shit came down. What a time.
What a bitch.
But I will say this. I was chatting with Serisha. Oh, that's the other thing. You and I just got into the habit of talking. You're just very easy to talk to, and I never had my guard up with you.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, which normally I would. I don't like people.
You sensed my trauma and were like a kin.
No. I wasn't. There was something about you that, like, for lack of a better word, set me off. So I was very unguarded with you. And so we were chatting one time and you mentioned your group, the group you were participating in, Decolonizing Christianity Canada. And you're like, do you want to join? And this was right after you had gone in for the
retreat.
in-person, the retreat.
Yes.
And I was like, oh man, I would like to be in, I was like, hey, I'll join and maybe I'll get in on the next one.
That's the retreat where I met Rose-Ingrid. Like first, the day before or a few days before, we had met at a conference that we were organizing, or I at least was part of organizing. She was speaking at. So I was doing a workshop there and I ran into her and some other folks and met for the first time. And they were like, oh, we're part of DCC, whatever. I think. I'm not sure how it went exactly, but I saw her there and then knew that I was connecting with her to drive her to the retreat in Southern Ontario. And then we had a bunch of mishaps. There was a huge snowstorm. My car got stuck in my driveway and I was like, the devil is trying to prevent me from going to this conference or retreat or whatever you want to call it. But we eventually made it there and we spent 4 hours driving together and me rapping Jesus Walks by Kanye. Yeah, and that's how we became friends. But then I can't remember how we introduced you two together.
I mean, honestly, y'all know better than I do because the way my brain works, the way the trauma in my brain works, chunks of memory are gone. I do remember, though, Serisha, one thing that marked me was your, like, dead-ass sense of humor. I was like, this young pup is out here saying things like it is and not filtering. And what was it? The day you told me that when you first learned that white people shed, That was one of my first memories of you, and I talking about sunburns and how you didn't know that white people sunburnt, and when you watch this girl on the bus, I tell this story all the time because it kills me. How you saw this white girl peeling skin off herself on the bus, and you
wait, pause. We have to correct some of it because I knew white people sunburned. I didn't realize they shed like a snake or like a lizard or whatever. They actually shed. So I was on the GO train going to work in Toronto, minding my business, and there was a white man sitting in front of me. And this man is peeling his skin. And I was like, what is happening? First of all, it's disgusting. He was dropping it onto the ground. Like, it was just like, but he was peeling it off. And I was like, what is going on? But I was talking to one of my friends who's also a white man. And he was like, yeah, it happens all the time. I was like, that's disgusting. And now I can never, like, I can never unsee this. So I'm glad I shared that trauma with you the first time we met.
You were like, how can you be the master race when you burn in the sun?
No, for real. I'm sorry. If we're from indentured and enslaved diasporas of the world, like it just makes no sense.
Had a war to spare.
Anyway, I digress. How did we meet?
Early memories of you. That was one of my early memories of you that I held on to. And I was like, I see you. I'm like, she will do great things. I'm assuming, Janet, the intersection with us is through DCC at one of the monthly calls. And also when lockdown happened, DCC still had its monthly calls, but I know for me, the combination of skill set and trauma, I went into take care of other people mode. And so we spent a lot of time just curating space for folks to gather. So we did extra stuff. We partnered with some white, quote unquote, I hate allies. The word's a dumb word. You know what it is. White people who want to do good. Anyway,
I hate that people say accomplices now too.
Look, if you are a white person out there listening to this, I don't know where you came from, but hi. And if you are trying to do good and do right and not be as shady as your ancestors, I thank you. But also, all of that stuff is so cringy. We hosted an online space for folks for someone local, or there was a bunch of folks. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people got killed that year. June 2020 was fucked up. So I know we held a space for black folks to gather. I know we were doing online cooking parties where we all made food together, and that kind of stuff too. So there was a lot of communal happy hours and stuff like that online for folks to hang out in. Oh, we did Christmas in July. That was fun.
Yes, that was fun.
That was fun. I was organizing parties for folks to just kind of gather and hang out, and I turned my Zoom into a co-working space and stuff like that. So I'm assuming, Janet, unless you have more a detailed memory.
No, I didn't participate in any of that. As I told you, I don't like people. I'm pretty sure it's the first DCC I participated in. You were just very raw and vulnerable and real, and just emotionally I clicked with you. I remember asking for your proper name, Rose-Ingrid.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked for the name of the person, the family member that you were talking about at the time. And I was just like, and I was like, is it okay if I pray for you? All that other activity within the virtual group, did not participate. Honestly, me being able to participate in the monthly call was a lot. I fell asleep half the time, but it was lovely. You would sing to me.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was quite lovely. You would sing, and then I'd wake up and be like, oh, sorry, go
You're I was cozy in your section in your yeah. Man, that was forever ago.
It really helps that not real. I mean, this is typical of the city we're in. This bloody city is a small town,
Ottawa, in the National Capital Region of what is currently Canada, aka unceded Algonquin territory,
aka 3 corporations in a trench coat,
6 families, 3 run grocery stores, 3 run telecoms companies, and that's where we live.
The Hudson Bay on crack. That's what I like to say about Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so somehow, I'm sure at some point we all came together.
Hang out in person.
Well, Serisha and I just had our first in-person hangout. Okay, so my thing is, I would just show up to Rose-Ingrid's place.
Right, we're neighbors.
Yeah. But we didn't know that.
Yes.
Because we're in Ottawa.
We both live in the same neighborhood and we're both stuck at home. And I was fucking like at home. My roommate left and I worked in the arts, so I had no job and I was just emotionally just I was it was a lot.
Yeah.
You had a backyard, so I'd show up
I
to your
did have a
place
backyard.
and we would social distance hang out.
Yeah.
And I would chat with Serisha. And I think our first group hangout, like sometime between the year 2020 and 2023, because Lord knows I cannot even remember.
Well, I'm
And
glad you remembered so much of our story because I don't remember any of that. I feel like I've just like known you forever.
Yes.
and you used
Yeah.
to bring me gifts. You'd bring like candles and stuff to my house.
Yeah, it's my
Yeah.
love language. I'm kind of like a squirrel or whatever the animal is that hoards shit and like just gives like little
Little
nuts
token.
to people. You know, what
You're a
animal is that?
squirrel?
Yeah,
I
I
squirrel.
mean,
That's it.
squirrels shove
Shove
little
nuts in your
nuts
mouth.
in their mouth. That's not. Never mind.
Uh, chipmunks? Do chipmunks do that?
Yes,
It's whatever creature.
It is a bird
Folks,
that collects shiny things for its nest. But I don't
crows.
think
yeah.
they share.
Crows. If you give a crow something, they'll come back to you.
Uh, I'm not a crow. I'm a
No.
beautiful creature.
What's wrong with crows?
No.
How dare you curse God's creation, Janet? I guess I can go back a few steps. I am the oldest of two from a single parent Haitian household. My mom immigrated here. She wasn't the first in her family, actually. Like, I have family in New York and in Miami and like Orlando area. Gosh, I have family in Atlanta and Montreal. So my mom's oldest sister immigrated to Montreal first, brought my grandma. My mom came after, and then she waited for a man. This is a lesson to all. Be careful who you marry because it'll change your life. She married the wrong man. And so rather than marrying some guys in Montreal who were hollering, she waited for the man she loved. And that man came to Canada. They got married, and I was the miracle baby. My mom said she had like 3 miscarriages before me. So it was a really big deal. She's like, you better turn out right because I had you. I wanted you. No pressure. My parents divorced when I was 4, and my brother was born when I was 2. There was a surprise. They didn't think they could have more. And so my mom, who is an educator, went from like, I have all these lofty plans for my kids and the family and the, bougie immigrant growth life to living in a shelter with 2 kids under 5 years old, having to, pick up life from scratch. So that's kind of like the background of my childhood. Um, and in that, I mean, my mom's an educator, and I was like a textbook gifted child, so she was very happy about that. But also now I look back, I'm 37 now, and I look back and I see how a lot of what people saw as me being a smart kid was purely like neurodivergence and disassociation, and just how a child processes trauma. I used to read a book a day. I was like, oh yeah, when I was 7, when I was in first grade, I read a book every day, and then every 2 weeks I'd go to the library and get 14 more. Yeah, girl, you were disassociating from your very, very chaotic, very, very emotionally just unstable life. That's not normal. Being in a book that much is not normal. Being in your head that much is not normal. And then my mom, when I was older, got mad at me because she's like, "Oh, you're not reading as much. You need to do more chores." No, I just found Jesus. I got saved when I was 12. I started going to this Pentecostal youth group. That's how they get you. Youth group is a good youth ministry. Will bring the most atheistic people to church. Let me tell you. And even though like culturally Haitians are Christian, my mom wasn't really going to church like that. Christianity offered me a space where I was seen I was seen as in like I could come, and even though I did not fit in with these white girls and their families, I knew that God loved me and that God saw me, and I had a father. So I had a father where in spiritual life where I didn't have in physical life. And you get taught all these things about how even if you lose families in the earthly sense, you've gained that in the spiritual sense. So all of a sudden, then, my spiritual home was church. And so I went every Wednesday. I eventually went Sunday morning and Wednesday night for youth group. And then when the church like bought property in the suburbs, I would go Sunday morning, come home for lunch, and then go to Sunday evening service in the suburbs on the other side of town. And that was like my life all through high school, on top of, working a job and taking care of my brother and taking care of my cousins when it was necessary and paying bills. And mitigating the emotional immaturity of the adults in my life. um, yeah, and so I think all of those things like wrapped up to when I went to university and discovered, Christian ministry in other senses. I got involved in campus ministry right away, and I was like really excited about the idea that you could share your faith. Now, in the background, like my mom worked she started her own nonprofit. I saw her like my first protest. My mom brought me to. My mom was politically inclined, and also I was aware of the world that way, and so I was reading Papa Doc in high school. I was reading like MLK and Underground Railroad books in sixth grade because no one was teaching us about Black history really, and I started the Black History Month like presentation in my high school when I was in it because we went to school with Nazis and there were very few of us.
Not the
And so
castle I went to school with Nazis.
I know. It's a crazy thing, but we went. There's a time in like the early 2000s where skinheads were like growing in Orleans, and one of the kids in our school, his dad was the head of the local skinhead thing, and he was recruiting through his son's friends. So I had like I got actually a Palestinian classmate who was being harassed at school by these guys, and actually ended up getting expelled and charged as an adult for retaliating. When he just got it, he had enough. He stabbed a kid in the back with an X-Acto knife. That kid was back at school the next day because of a flesh wound, and then he was expelled and sent away. And like we had a camp teacher who would be like, "You Lebanese people talk too much, and don't worry, I like you Lebanese people because I have my barber's Lebanese." And this man was like crazy. He was clearly on something too. And the student was like, "Yo, I'm Palestinian. I'm not Lebanese. This
Oh
is
my
really and this is like just." We were also considered one of the best schools in the country, which is laughable now. But that's what whiteness will do for you when you put in, academics above all the other things. Like, oh yeah, we're in such a great academic school, except your students are being harassed, for the race and ethnicity. You have these like kids who are like diplomats' children being spat on the bus because they're Black. Crazy, crazy shit. And so like I've always had a justice leaning side of me, which now I'm like, oh, the sprinkletism makes sense. And I got involved in campus ministry, and I wanted to share Jesus with the world because I thought Jesus changed my life, and I wanted to help change the world with Jesus. You know, fast forward like 10 years later, I was in full time ministry, broke as fuck. My mom had a stroke, and so I had taken care of her as well, and burnt out, burnt out, and just so aware of how racist and sexist and homophobic most of the Christian world I was in was built, and I wrote a blog post that made everyone mad. It went Ottawa viral. My pastor got calls and emails, and then the rumors started that Rose-Ingrid hates white people.
Wow.
Which is
for folks that don't know, Ottawa viral. This is the national capital of the country, but trust, this is a village.
It is, and the thing is also all of my like people I went to church with, they are all staffers from the conservative government. Like these guys were all working in the PMO or adjacent. And so when they're posting about Muslim like hijab bans on Facebook and then going home to their predominantly Muslim neighborhoods to pray for their neighbors and then showing up at church on Saturday or Sunday as greeters and ushers because women weren't allowed because it was a security thing. And I'm like, you're Islamophobic. You're sexist. You're actively racist. It was mind blowing, and it blew up my life because having people I loved and trust like not assume the worst of me. I mean, we've prayed together, we've served together, we've worshipped. I've helped you see Jesus, and you refuse to see me. Black and brown people are getting shot on the streets by cops every day, and no one has compassion for me. It was just a whole crazy, crazy era. I was like 2016 around there. And anyway, I left ministry. And we have a mutual connection that wanted to start something that paralleled what we were seeing in the States of like BIPOC movements, queer movements of faith, like post-evangelical spaces. And we wanted that here. And she asked if I would join. And I was like, I'm not a Christian anymore. She's like, yeah, but you smell like sheep. It's just so crazy. And so that's how I ended up at DCC. And then I like to bring people together. So I was like, we're gonna have a retreat. They're like, no, we're not. I'm like, yes, watch me. And I organized the retreat and fundraised money. And thanks, white people, on your guilt. We appreciate your cash. And then that's how Serisha ended up in that space too. So it all kind of ties back to me going to youth group at 12 years old. Shout out to Jessica Roberge for inviting me to youth group all those years ago.
I mean, I'm glad that it created something that let us all meet.
Right?
My story is like maybe a little bit different, maybe a little bit similar. So I come from a South African background, but I am ethnically Indian. Whereabouts? Who knows? Because indentured labor and slave trades exist. My parents came here after, well, my dad came here first as a refugee, protected persons, humanitarian grounds, whatever it was back then. And then my parents had an arranged marriage and my mom came here. And then 3 years later, I was born. And like, kind of like what you were saying, like my mom tried to have a kid for 3 years and couldn't and had to deal with a bunch of stuff. And then finally, me, the miracle child, was born, as I like to say, because I led the way for the other two siblings. So I'm the oldest daughter of 3 sisters to a family that wanted 3 sons, which is amazing, I guess. No, my grandmother was very, very disappointed and let me know all the time that she was very disappointed that I was a girl and not a boy. So that was fun. Originally from Montreal, which I maintain is the best city in this country. Sorry, Toronto.
No lies detected.
Yeah. My dad used to say from east to the west, Montreal's still the best. I maintain that. I have been across the whole country.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I love Montreal. But my family moved to Toronto and lived in the GTA. And I spent most of my life in a very racist white town where similarly had a KKK chapter. My high school's like mascot, all the like things that represented our high school were made after the Confederate flag. So we had like a very uniquely American form of racism. I got called the N-word pretty much every day of my life. And or if they felt like they needed to be specific, they throw the word sand in front of the N-word. And I guess that's what I was.
You're so creative.
So I grew up in that town that was like very high income and my family was not comparatively. So yeah, living the refugee immigrant lifestyle. So I went back to Montreal for university, which is where I always wanted to go. And my parents dropped me off. And then 3 months later, my dad suddenly died and I had to go back home and figure life out. So I took like 5 days off and then made my way back to university and finished my degree.
You didn't even just finish your, can I just interject? Because I don't think you pop yourself up enough. You finished in your degree on time, for the record.
Yes, I did finish on time. I had
what is considered Canada's Ivy League. Let's just put some respect on Serisha Ayer's name, okay? How you single-handedly were like, nah, I have all this shit, but I'm gonna step into it and dunk on all these white people with less to handle and work my way and build this life for myself and my family. Come on now.
Thank you. Like, yeah, it was hard. Like, my mom got sick while I was in university and I thought I was going to have to drop out. But like, again, the church, we were part of a church. I've been a Christian my whole life. My family's background is that they were Hindus who, even though you can't actually convert to or away from Hinduism, they became Christians. And we're very heavily involved in church. We're from an evangelical Baptist background, which is like a very niche part of evangelism. And I still subscribe to like being a Christian today and probably forever will. Not probably, I will forever.
She's like,
Jesus, me and Jesus are BFFs, absolute BFFs. But the church really like stepped up and took care of my family when I couldn't and, you know, helped us out in ways that a church is supposed to and that community is supposed to. So I was able to graduate on time and leave and find a job downtown Toronto. And after that, I moved to Ottawa for a job and I was able to move my family out of that town and bring them to Ottawa and basically pull us out of poverty. So shout out education. This country has problems, but for a poor kid to be able to have access to, you know, schooling at the highest institution is a win.
Silver linings.
Yeah, silver linings. Yeah, as I've kind of left that space, I've been more critical of the church in many ways, but I still identify as a Christian and still try to like bring in some of the Hindu culture that I was raised in and that I connect with in many ways into my spiritual life, which is really important for me. But yeah, I've also been a caretaker. I've been taking care of my mom and my sisters ever since my dad died. And it's just been the typical like eldest immigrant daughter experience, I guess. You kind of give up your life to take care of everybody else. And that's just how it rolls. And now I'm in Ottawa, a place that I never wanted to be. But
Ditto.
if you asked anybody from my university, they'd be like, Serisha does not want to go to Ottawa, God forbid. But here I am, and now I found a community with these two amazing women, which is where I'm at now.
I'm Janet, first generation immigrant. So Rose-Ingrid and Serisha are proper Canadians born on the soil. I think we have like land right citizenship, or we should.
No, there's laws in the books that if shit hits the fan, they can strip us of our.
They're gonna kick us out so fast.
I expect it eventually, the way the world's going.
Well,
I'll go back to Quebec. That's my country.
Yeah, go back to where you came from, Quebec and Alberta in the house. Okay, and I'll catch a flight back to Nigeria.
The Albertans
You're gonna go back to Nigeria. Catch a flight
No. If they say, look, y'all, so by way of introduction, I'm Janet, and if this country ever reaches that point, you know, I know exactly where I came from.
It must be nice.
Yeah. So I am Nigerian by way of Ondo State, born there, Yoruba tribe, Yoruba people, globally, you know. You'll hear our music, you'll eat our food, you'll see our culture.
She said we're the popular ones.
We are. It's just, you know, this is reality. So
that's Nigerian.
I just I can't make you feel better because you're not. You know? I'm sorry. With humility, you know, sharing my story.
What did Trevor Noah say? Nigerians are the Americans of Africa? No comment.
I'm also a third culture kid, I believe is the term, because I was born in my home country, came to Canada when I was 4. So my understanding of the world has been framed by this culture. I was raised in Treaty 1 territory, now known as Winnipeg. And I'm really proud of that. To willingly relocate to another country. We're economic migrants, I believe is the term. And so because of that, I was raised to be an exceptional immigrant. So not only was I the first child, not only was I a girl, but we are economic immigrants to this country. We chose to be here, okay? So therefore, you shall take advantage of every opportunity given to you. No, there shall be no support or guidance, but you still need to excel. So that was fun. Really, I wish I could just tell all my teachers growing up, you know, I actually wasn't like anxious. I was just under a lot of expectations. Like much of Western Canada, the people you don't like, I didn't really grow up in Canada. I grew up as a Western Canadian, and that means something different just in terms of how you rely on people. So the churches I went to were a combination of like white churches, Nigerian churches, but fundamentally, like I never really found community within those spaces. It was more the fact that like we're all in Winnipeg, like at some point you have to, you know, shovel your neighbor out of the snow. So having that understanding just in life that we do need to help each other, even if we don't know each other, I think was really valuable. After my first degree, after I did an internship, it was just clear to me that like, I think I need to go to Canada now.
You're gonna get prairie folks mad.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. Opportunity isn't equal around this country. And the sooner we can admit that, the sooner we can support each other in finding solutions. And it's just, my bachelor's was in sociology. You know, I wasn't a computer science grad. And I know of people who got recruited by Amazon, you know, back in the day. So I was like, hey, what are my options? Try to secure another internship or take a huge leap of faith and go to like what is actually Canada. So with the support of one of my teachers, I filled out an application to Carleton and Concordia. Carleton accepted me first, and I waited because I didn't want to go. No, really, like it was hard. I was like, oh man, like I even made some like I even like made kind of an effort to like look at what the lifestyle would be like, and I was like, oh my goodness. Fortunately, Concordia came through, and I was like, absolutely. 10 years. So we're recording this December 2024. A decade ago, I took a leap of faith, a big leap of faith. And I say it like that. Like, folks might be rolling their eyes. Like, it's not like you left the country. It felt like it. It felt like it. Please, I hope that as you're listening to this podcast, you're looking at a map, just really appreciating how far you have to go to travel within this country.
Calling Manitoba Western Canada is
It's
crazy.
No one in Ontario considers Manitoba Western Canada. BTW.
Western Canada is BC and Alberta.
Okay, fine. Look, that's me trying to get it on their clout, okay? I was raised in the prairies, okay? I'm a prairie girl. Like, if you've ever watched Little House on the Prairie, but black.
You ever Little Moscow on the Prairie? I watched that one.
No, that was too funny. There was too much activity in that show. There's far too much happening all at once.
Too much life. These immigrants made us look too real.
No. I could not relate. It was too inclusive.
CBC, less inclusivity, please.
Less inclusive.
I don't see myself in it.
There was no, like, forced integration. And it's like, where is that?
No assimilation.
Yeah, like being shoved down your throat by your parents, like, integrate into this culture. Yeah.
Yeah, my parents weren't like that.
Yeah. Montreal was great. It was my first time living on my own, and great city to be a broke student. Highly recommend. And
this is a Montreal fan club at this point.
Oh my God, yes.
I'm on it. I went to school in Quebec City.
That's okay.
I did turn down Carleton to go to Quebec to go to school.
Oh, damn right. Look, no hate to Carleton. We love Carleton, okay? Y'all are great, okay? But we're just saying, given the choice.
Also, though, I feel like Montreal feels a little bit like my second hometown too, being from Ottawa and being Haitian. And like, my grandma is there, my aunt's there. We were there all the time. You just drive over. I spent a lot of time in like Côte des Neiges and, going to the Marché Jean Talon with my grandma and stuff like that, and going to Jean Coutu for treats.
Maybe we need to all up and move back to Montreal.
Honestly, I thought about it this week.
That's my real plan in life.
If it wasn't for the fact that I liked making money, I would.
95 happened and everybody left, and they said, we lost à cause de vote ethnique, and now here we all are.
I was living there. I gave my apartment there last year. And my friends were all like, where are you going? I'm like, look, I love y'all. This joie de vivre, let's smoke some weed in the park vibe, terrace vibe is great. But I have grown up mother flipping bills to pay. Unlike you, I don't have parents, okay? So I go to Ontario to make my money, and I come spend and live a good life in Montreal. And that was the compromise. It was beautiful.
I'm really grateful for the place, just the roommate I had. Shout out to Samantha. We're not in touch anymore, but it was a really good place to enter the world, just to start being an adult in the world. Eldest immigrant daughter, you shall, achieve all the things, but don't ask us for help. That will cause stress.
Yeah, I didn't know what a major was when I applied to university.
That's
wild. Unfortunately, because I am an Anglophone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, King Charles and your ancestors.
I can't believe you named him. That's
amazing. King Charles and send him this.
Is he not dead yet?
Well, it was his ancestors that, like, you inherit the crown, you inherit the history. So it is what it is. So because I'm an Anglophone, I could not stay. My program had a rule: if you couldn't interview in French, you couldn't apply to the very few jobs that became available through our master's program in Montreal. And so I was forced to move to Ottawa. I love to tell people I came to Ottawa on a Greyhound.
Which no longer exists here because we don't.
I miss Greyhound, man.
Shout out to my friend Bettina, she was doing her PhD while I was doing my master's, and was like, I can pick up some of your stuff while you move. I was like, thank you. I don't think I can bring it all in the Greyhound.
You know what? I can beat that. When I moved from Milton Park to the Plateau, I had to take the bus, up park and walk to the house. And I took it 15 or 20 times back and forth in one day to move my stuff by myself from second year to third year of university, because I had no parental help because my dad's dead and my mom was not able to help.
Dang,
So,
no one, man, no one can help you out. I threw one of my college when I was in Toronto
no.
in college. I threw a couple of the guys because I was 30 and these kids were like 20, 19. I was like, yo, I'll pay you 100, you and a buddy $50 each come to my house and fill up your car and drive my stuff over, and they showed up.
My roommate's dad, I think, did help take some of my stuff. But yeah, the rest I just took. And everybody was gone. Everyone was gone home. Their parents had come pick them up or they'd flown out back home for the summer.
Damn.
And I was staying. So yeah, I had to go and take all my stuff on the bus in like little plastic bags. And now that's why I don't take public transit. Sorry to the environment, but I have a car. And I'm not going to suffer like that ever again.
Oh, man. No, but you can ship with Greyhound because that's what I did too. Like I paid the fee to bring when I left school after my mom had her stroke. I actually put everything in bins and had them pay the shipping fee or whatever for where I couldn't count as my own.
Girl, I didn't have money to take an Uber from Milton Park to the Plateau.
This was
how would I have money to ship anything?
No, but it's not a shipping on Greyhound was cheaper. I mean, this is also 2007. This is pre Uber. Uber didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist. YouTube.
I was in grade 7, so
yes, I was about to finish high school.
Yes, I'm old. But
years away.
You just paid you paid for a way, and then essentially they would transport your whatever because you could send stuff on the Greyhound without being with.
I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that.
It was cheaper shipping. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on Greyhounds. Anywho.
So as you tune in to this podcast, you can expect just really honest conversations about honest reflections, not even scripted conversation, just honest reflections about what it means to be the eldest daughter of an immigrant family on Turtle Island, the challenges that come with that lived reality, the perseverance that is absolutely necessary because there's no one to hold your hand. At least it feels like that. And just the beauty in finding each other and being able to be that person for each other that, we wish we had when we were growing up.
Yeah. I feel like even just in the brief connecting of all of our stories too, there's overlaps, there's differences. We're all come from different backgrounds. We were clearly raised in different places. I think the number of siblings we have is different. I don't have any sisters, at least not in my mom's house anyway. My father has other kids. That's a whole other conversation. Also, and the way we carry a responsibility and how we took care of ourselves and others, our career paths, even how I think faith in immigrant families, whether it's Islam or Christianity or others, I think is generally a huge thing. Spirituality is a big part of our lives. I no longer practice Christianity, but I also recognize how that impacts who I am today. That can't be disconnected from that. And so I feel like you can kind of get an overview of how we're all eldest immigrant daughters, but we're also all very different people who are intersecting in that struggle to even that almost a struggle in the journey to actually find our full selves outside of the responsibilities and the perspectives and the projections of those around us. And I think when we've been hanging out for a while now, but I think when we kind of came up with this idea, we'd talk and be like, wouldn't this be cool if we could invite other folks like us into this conversation? This is why we're here, because we are not the only eldest immigrant daughters navigating the bullshit of the world. And I don't know, and I'm sure some of our other folks have their group chat of EIDs like we do, but maybe you don't. And so maybe we can be that group chat together, to share our wins and our losses and process our traumas and shed our tears and learn to put ourselves first together in this digital platform that we're creating, this container where we can all come together and share in that struggle. And hopefully all come out better and healed and actually taking care of ourselves and putting ourselves first and, retiring from being superheroes for people who will never fully understand us.
Oof.
Mic drop.
Well, that's the kind of conversation I guess you'll get from us moving forward.
So join us on this journey. We're on socials, Eldest Immigrant Daughters, everywhere you have socials, like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
And you can catch us on all of the platforms that you listen to podcasts. And stay tuned for the next one.
All right, appreciate y'all.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Eldest Immigrant Daughters is a podcast hosted by Janet Akins, Rose-Ingrid Benjamin, and Serisha Iyer. Production and editing by Serisha Iyer. Cover art by Serena Iyer.